EPCG Scheme, everything you need to know. EPCG, Export Promotion Capital Goods, Scheme helps in facilitating the import of capital goods for manufacturing quality goods and to augment the competitiveness of India's export. EPCG Scheme enables the import of capital goods that are used in the pre-production, production, and post-production without the payment of customs duty. What is EPCG Scheme? The Export Promotion Capital Goods, EPCG, scheme was launched by the Directorate General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, under Chapter 4 of the Foreign Trade Policy, FDP, 2015-20. The idea behind the introduction of this scheme was the facilitation of capital product imports so that Indian manufacturers can use them to produce quality goods. This scheme aims to improve India's manufacturing prowess in the global market. When is EPCG applicable? The EPCG scheme can be availed of on the import of capital goods during the pre-production, production, and post-production stage with nil customs duty. The scheme is applicable when the imported goods are capital goods under the definition provided in Chapter 9 of the FDP 2015-20, including those in semi-knockdown and completely knockdown condition. Computer systems and software as parts, components of the capital goods. Spares and tools, molds, dies, fixtures, jigs and refractories. Catalysts procured for the initial charge and one additional charge. Capital goods for project imports, if notified by the Central Board of Excise and Customs. Export obligation under EPCG scheme. Export obligation, EO, is an arrangement used in the import of capital goods under the EPCG scheme. Such imports are made under an EO, which must be 6 times the duty that would otherwise be paid on the import of the capital goods. The EO must be fulfilled within 6 years from the date of issuance of the EPCG authorization. Some conditions are applicable for the EO to be fulfilled. The export obligation is to be fulfilled by the authorization holder through the export of products manufactured by themselves or through their supporting manufacturer, services. The export obligation under EPCG shall be over and above the average export volume for the previous 3 licensing years for the products similar to it within the EO period, including extensions if any. While calculating the EO volume, shipments made under advance authorization, duty-free import authorization, DFIA, drawback scheme, MES and CES will also be considered. Royalty payment for R&D services received in freely convertible currency and foreign exchange is also counted while calculating exports under the EPCG scheme. Deemed exports, as defined in Chapter 7 of FDP 2015-20, are considered as a fulfillment towards EO. The benefits of deemed exports are also available to the exporter. An authorization received under the EPCG scheme remains active for 18 months from the date of its issue, and cannot be revalidated thereafter. Only 25% of EO is required for units located in Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura and J&K. If the authorization holder completes 75% of the EO in less than half of the EO period, the remaining 25% is waived. Only 75% of the EO is required for export of green technology products. Procedure to apply for EPCG scheme. To avail of the benefits of the EPCG scheme, the exporter has to file an application with the DGFT. To apply for this incentive, fill up the Directorate Form 5B, ANF 5B, along with the following documents. Permanent Account Number, PAN. Digital Signature Certificate. Import-Export Code. GST Registration Certificate. Registration cum Membership Certificate. CA Certificate, along with original for verification. Chartered Engineer's Certificate, along with original for verification. Company brochure. Performa invoice. Such other documents as may be prescribed by DGFT from time to time. All these documents must be self-certified copies. Criteria for availing of EPCG. To be eligible to avail of the EPCG scheme, one should be a manufacturing exporter who doesn't have other similar supporting exporters, a merchant exporter with supporting manufacturer and/or service provider, common service providers, CSP, as certified or assigned by the DGFT, Department of Commerce, or State Industrial Infrastructure Corporation. Some additional FDP conditions need to be fulfilled by CSPs. The CSP will have to meet the conditions of the export obligation, and its shipping bills must contain the details of the EPCG authorization. The exporter must inform the concerned authority about CSP activities before it begins exporting. The CSP will provide bank guarantee equal to the customs duty saved against the export goods. Exporters of electronic goods can also avail of EPCG benefits. An EPCG authorization holder can source capital goods from a domestic manufacturer and claim deemed export benefit under the FDP. Domestic sourcing from export-oriented units is also permitted under the scheme. An EPCG authorization holder can opt for technological upgradation of capital goods that have been procured under the scheme. Fulfilling the EO is a basic precondition under the EPCG scheme. Heavy exporters are naturally better placed to fulfill this obligation and benefit from the EPCG. Therefore, it should be availed of only when production is in sizable volumes, and one is confident of exporting the product overseas. We explain the EPCG scheme as follows. Export Promotion Capital Goods Scheme. If you want to export, you may have to invest in capital goods to make export products. You may find that capital goods procurement is costly, and then you see that you have to pay customs duties if you import your capital good machine, or IGST duties if you buy it in India. You wish there was a scheme to ease your burden, at least a scheme that makes these duties and taxes zero FDP. Indeed, has such a scheme for exporters. It is called EPCG Scheme, Export Promotion Capital Goods Scheme. The objective of the EPCG scheme is to help an importer domestic procurement of capital goods, like machinery etc., for producing quality goods and services for exports. The idea here is to enhance India's export competitiveness. The scheme allows for duty-free import of capital goods or exception from duties in case the capital good is procured from a domestic supplier. What goods are eligible? Only capital goods by definition are any plant, machinery, equipment or accessories required in manufacture or production, or for rendering services besides capital goods, computer software systems, spares, molds, dyes etc., or catalysts are also allowed. You may refer to paragraph 5.0 of the Foreign Trade Policy for exact details. All of these items can be imported or indigenously procured without payment of duties under the EPCG scheme, given that they will be used for producing export goods and services. What are the obligations once the capital good is procured? Once a good has been imported, the authorization holder of the EPCG license would have to make exports and show proof of the same to DGFT for redemption of the authorization. The exports in the next 6 years should be at least 6 times the duties saved in the authorization. This export should be over and above the average exports done by the firm in the last 3 years. This export obligation is again divided into 2 blocks of 4 year and 2 years. At least 50% of the exports must be done in the first block of 4 years, and the remaining in the last 2 years. For example, assume a firm is having on average export of 1 crore in last 3 years. Now in April 2016 it buys some machinery for 30 lakhs and saves duty of around 10 lakhs under the EPCG scheme. The company must continue to make average exports of 1 crore for the next 6 years, that is till 2022. Further, it has to make extra exports of 10 lakhs into 6, equal to 60 lakhs in the next 6 years. Period from the date of issue of authorization block of first row for a minimum export obligation to be fulfilled 50% block of 5th and 6th year balance. However, if the machine is not imported but brought from the domestic supplier, the export obligation is reduced by 25%, so now the export obligation is 45 lakhs instead. This reduced export obligation is there to encourage the manufacture of good quality capital goods within India so that we do not have to import them. There are certain other relaxations given for green technology products units located in the northeast region, Jammu and Kashmir, etc. How does one apply? To apply for an EPCG authorization, one has to make an online application with one's digital signature on the DGFT website under application form in 5A, the details of the capital goods and the list of export items or service it will be used for should be provided. An independent charter engineer certificate must be furnished as per performa as given in Appendix 5A to show the nexus for the given capital goods. Basically, the engineer certifies that the machinery is required for making the given export items or services. There is another requirement of a chartered accountant / cost accountant / company's secretary should provide a certificate as per the format given in Appendix 5B stating the financial declaration of the firm and the exports done in the last 3 financial years. Once the application is approved, an EPCG authorization is issued by DGFT, which must be registered at the port of registration. As stated, the customs may impose a bank guarantee on the applicant if it perceives that there might be some risk in fulfilling the export obligation. File after the capital good is procured, it should be installed, and a certificate of installation confirming the installation at the premises mentioned must be furnished within 6 months. As explained earlier, after installation the export obligation must be met. The proof of the exports should be furnished with the DGFT office for redemption of the authorization. For more specific details regarding the EPCG scheme, historical case on EPCG license. ABC Incorporated was involved in the manufacturing of semi-combed hosiery yarn. The company acted in good faith and unknowingly trusted consultant Mr. X of Ziz Private Limited, who provided them with shipping bills from specific exporters. They were assured that this would be counted as exports. ABC Incorporated then submitted these shipping bills to DGFT for the purposes of discharging the export obligation. Third-party export procedures are common with matters relating to EPCG, so the claim was accepted at the time. On investigation, it was found that the goods were actually not exported. The company violated the terms of their EPCG license as they had not exported the yarn. The company pleaded guilty. However, upon a careful review of the case, it was found that the goods manufactured were not the finished products by ABC Incorporated. As a result, on account of the violation of the terms and the condition of the scheme, capital goods that were imported, valuing 6 Indian rupees and 5 paise crore, were confiscated under Section 108 of the Customs Act 1962. ABC Incorporated has saved custom duty of 1 Indian rupee and 38 paise crore. This was outstanding and became payable and needed to be paid before the goods could be used again. Apart from this, interest, repayment of earlier benefits such as the drawback granted previously and the TED refund availed became payable. A stiff penalty was levied and had to be paid due to non-compliance with the export obligation. For any support and consultation, please contact www.gftconsultancy.com or contact Ajay Chopra on mobile no +91 981 108 8422.